Hey everybody, it's Matt and Dyan, and welcome back to OK Aussie. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe, hit that notification bell, and thank you for joining us in our journey. Today's episode, as the title says, is a bit of a look at the
I'd like
medical.
more friends.
Yes, well, that's always available.
You're welcome.
Subscribe, engage, comment,
It's
connect.
a safe place, guys.
It is a safe place. Our conversation today in this particular video is to talk about and discuss a bit about your medical history.
Yes.
Diagnosis,
Q&A.
what you've got. So it's a medical Q&A. Now, remembering, just up front, we're not medical professionals. So
No.
anything that we say in this particular episode is not about diagnosis for yourself. Please go and seek that with your own medical
Definitely.
practitioner and specialist. Get your own tests, etc.
Feel free to share
But
your
we are
journey
sharing literally
in
just your
small
experience.
ways.
Yeah.
But also asking me questions further about my medical. Sometimes I might not answer because maybe, as you guys can imagine, sometimes questions can go too deep. It's like, I don't know who you are, because it is the internet. So yeah, and I'm not a medical professional to discuss it, and I get nervous doing it, whether it's about me or if it's about someone else asking me, because guys, just remember, this is a entertainment channel. I am here to keep people like myself entertained, feeling validated in their experience, and just, I'm a vlogger. That's really all I am. I'm just a disabled one.
We also have certain restrictions,
so yeah, there's
as
legal
you know,
reasons,
because
guys.
of social media. Now, their algorithms look for certain words or certain phrases, so we can't
Yeah, we
actually
don't
talk
want
about
them
certain
even
things.
in our comments, because
And that's
it
where we're
affects
not
our
able
channel.
to actually do so. So
Sorry.
that's just the restriction that we have in
Yes,
place there.
it is just YouTube world.
But our channel is very suited to people who have actually got chronic or rare long-term conditions. Which some of these things that Dyan has actually got.
Yeah.
So we do encourage the engagement and interaction with others
You're a
in our
beaver.
community online. We've been engaged online for decades, and that really
Yes.
is a good connection, particularly for someone who's mostly bedbound.
Yes. Well, I remember vlogging in it was probably 2012, and I did lots of videos just talking about some diagnoses that I had at that point.
Yeah.
I wish I kept them, but I actually deleted them, and that was even for Australia, not for America. It's different there. You guys in America, it blossomed quicker, but when I was posting, it was like no one was really watching us in Australia, so I felt like there was no worth in it if it wasn't being seen, because it was, well done. Like, I really had planned those ones out. I wasn't doing vlogging this style. I was still using the camcorder with my family.
We have
vlogging.
evolved in our
So,
own presence online. We've done a couple of channels along the way as we've learned to find out what works for us. Okay.
Yes.
Now, I wanted
this
to start.
one is the one.
Yeah, I wanted to start with really the umbrella diagnosis. Now, this actually came very late for you when you were about 48 years of age. Dyan's just turned 50 now. But it's an umbrella diagnosis which, at the top level, really actually
They should have
explains
picked
everything
it up
underneath.
before my other diagnosis.
It's a bit asked about.
Yeah,
because you got all these other separate diagnoses, didn't you?
And it's because
Typical though, it is.
It's typical in Australia, and I guess most of us Aussies aren't very proud of Australia at the moment. But what I will say about the health system in Australia, it is absolute shit.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not good if you are medically complex. It is not good if you have a syndrome. It is not good if you need medical care often. It is just not good, guys.
So rare or
it
new
might be
and
free,
emerging
but
diseases?
just imagine, when you
Very
go to the
difficult.
shops and something's for free, and you kind of go, oh, I know why it's for free.
Now, speaking about rare, Dyan's actually got a couple of what's considered rare in the rare world of diagnoses. So that does add an extra sort of challenge to things, doesn't it?
Yes.
Now, talking about this umbrella diagnosis, quite commonly, for a lot of people, it takes about 8 to 10 years to actually finally get to a proper diagnosis.
Yeah. Well, it took a little longer with me. However, guys, there is a bit of a deeper story, and you guys kind of know it if you go back to some of my podcasts about my parents not being responsible for my medical care enough, and because of that, it was pretty much the reason for the neglect I'm getting now. Most parents are involved in their child's life in all ways, and particularly medically. So if I had parents that actually did paid more attention to those doctors and people treating me as a child.
Took you towards
and
medical rather than away from.
And handed me as a sick underage. As I turned 18, I was still actively really sick. I should have been handed with my parent as a guardian, putting me through to the adult system. Because when you go to the adult system in Australia,
the transition,
the notes disappear from childhood and only your adult notes get created. So I was let down, guys. I do not have active parents in my life since I was a child.
Yeah.
So unfortunately that did not set me
Well,
up.
it sets you back more than anything
But
else.
on top of that, the health system here also played a part in letting me down as well, because they are supposed to look at my presentations
Symptoms,
often.
for a start.
Like I was going all the time. They should have actually said, oh no, she's not a female and just stressed. She's actually possibly quite sick. Let's look deeper. So that's why.
Right, so let's go back to talking about the umbrella diagnosis of, what's the name of your condition?
22q11.2 deletion syndrome.
First of all, what other names that you know?
Otherwise known as DiGeorge syndrome. And when I was born, it would have been called...
There's velofacial cardiac syndrome. There's also catch-22, and there's a few other sort of names.
Yeah, so basically I could have had a cleft, but I didn't. But they look at the visual of the baby first. I have a high palate though. So that would have been an indicator that they would have been concerned about. I was developmentally delayed.
Right.
I was showing signs of, I was premature. So I was
premature.
failing to thrive all of my childhood in growth. So those things fit with this syndrome, guys. And so they would have been concerned about those things because most syndromes have similar problems. So failure to thrive is in quite a few syndromes. Autism ADHD is in quite a few syndromes. The high palate though was in my syndrome. So that would have been a concern.
So this is a genetic chromosomal disorder where a little piece is
lacking
missing
chromosomes
on the 22 arm of that chromosome, and that affects 40 to 60 different genes that are missing in your body.
Correct.
And effectively it's about almost 180 plus different symptoms.
And they're still discovering more. Yeah.
I guess separate little issues that affect your body. Let's talk about some of those.
My body didn't form properly.
Because it forms the basis of what 22q is. But also these separate little diagnoses are what you've been dealing with
Well,
along
all
the way.
of my diagnoses before 22q are actually just symptoms of 22q, if that makes sense. Yes, they're diagnoses on their own for some other people, just as a single or a cluster of them. But for me, think of it as being symptoms of 22q.
That's a really important thing to mention too. For example, one of Dyan's primary diagnosis, ME/CFS, myalgic encephalomyelitis chronic fatigue syndrome, which you've had for over 30 years now.
Which was my first thing.
Fatigue.
Well, it wasn't my first thing. First thing in adulthood.
Yep.
Entering into adulthood, I had severe, dangerous Epstein-Barr virus.
EBV, yeah.
The doctor was very, very anxious and wanted me in hospital. I was supposed to be, but once again, my parental, I'll call it neglect, because I don't know if you're aware, but glandular fever, which is Epstein-Barr virus, can kill.
Absolutely.
It can kill teenagers predominantly. So I should have been in hospital.
Your body was failing you.
Absolutely.
Organs were
My
failing
immune
you.
system was so bad that I couldn't even shower. I was allergic to water.
They'd
I was
thrown, like,
allergic to milk.
12 different antibiotics
meat,
at you. You were.
everything,
And that's
yeah.
when I met you. And then that became into post-viral
Well, they
syndrome.
called it post-viral syndrome because that they didn't have even the chronic fatigue name. Then they said, "Oh no, now we call it chronic fatigue syndrome." Then later on, they said, "Oh no, it's myalgic encephalomyelitis," and I was like, "Okay," but everyone knows it, guys, lay people, as ME/CFS.
But fatigue, and that's the real cusp of all this, because you've spent not only days in bed or weeks in bed, months
Even
and
as a
years
child, well, even
in
as a
bed.
child, 22q is a fatiguing thing.
Yep.
And I spoke to my geneticist directly about that, and she said to me, absolutely, it causes a lot of fatigue. So even as a child, how active I was kind of like a mask. Not a mask, as in it made people think she's fine, she's active. But there was a lot of times where I was called lazy by whether it was my nana or my mum or whoever. And it was because I was tired. So I'd be slumped on the couch, lying on my bed in my bedroom.
Sure, but that's the flip side to another one of the conditions that's very dominant in 22q, which is ADHD. Attention Deficit Hyperactive Disorder.
And I definitely suffer.
You are ADHD. You've been diagnosed with that as a child. Ping, 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 ping.
The teachers even diagnosed me.
This girl doesn't sleep.
The teachers said I have hyperactivity.
Yep.
And in those days, that's basically telling your parent, she's ADHD and she's driving me crazy.
Yeah. Get off the red cordial right now.
Yeah, I was problematic in the classroom. Now look, I was in special ed, so luckily the teacher got a long break from me because
that's lucky.
I spent a lot of time in special education. But when I was in the classroom because you'd go to the classroom to share subjects like phys ed, because that's what everybody does together.
So not your core subjects. So
yes.
your English and maths and science studies would have been separated.
Social studies, even
Spelling and
certain
reading.
other things.
Yeah.
Like we were taken out because they knew that we would not cope with that. From all different classrooms, actually, not just my classroom.
But your core things like art or phys ed would have been done together. I get
so
that.
when I was in the mainstream classroom, of course I was excited to be there, and I swing on my chair, mainly because I'm short.
That's another big thing.
I would
shortness and
flick
size.
my pencil and
Always
chew my
distracting
pencil
things.
and play with things like the zipper on my pencil case. I could not, there was stimming, there was sensory issues, the echolalia. So I repeat what my friends were saying.
Yeah, like a parrot. Parroting they used to call it in the old days.
My family, literally, that was my nickname.
Yeah.
I was a monkey because I was up to naughty things all the time.
Right.
And I'm talking not bad naughty
just
things,
silly
guys.
monkey.
Just childhood naughty things. So I was called a monkey because I looked like one. Look at the photo on my community page. I do look like one. Then
the cutest
it was
monkey.
Parrot. Oh, no, hang on. We're talking about someone.
Don't talk about anything
Get
sensitive
her out of
around
the room.
the parrot because she'll echo it back to
She'll
people
tell
that shouldn't
them.
be told.
She'll just go bleh, because I parroted. So that used to.
You would have also eaten things that you perhaps shouldn't have eaten as well.
I hate pica.
Pica. Now I say that importantly because that's an autistic thing quite commonly
embarrassing.
coming through. So sand or foam or
I used to
things that you shouldn't put in your mouth.
and
or
concrete.
digest. Concrete.
Little crumbs of concrete. Anyway.
So you mentioned school, and that's a really important thing because educational deficiencies, so the developmental delays, the intellectual delays are part of 22q.
They picked up. Sorry, guys.
Word finding.
Not getting enough oxygen to the brain. Basically, I was diagnosed with dyslexia and dyscalculia
And
because I flipped
dysgraphia.
numbers and letters in year 1. And I don't know why this teacher could pick it up as she did. Maybe she didn't know the name, but she knew because they had to put for each EA, they would underline the E so that I would pronounce that.
Phonics. Yeah.
When they put the numbers in the double digits, I remember that the 23 was in front of me and they would underline the 2 to make sure I said that first. So they knew that my brain would go, well, I'll just do it this way. And I always did the reverse.
Flipping it around. Yeah,
so I'd go
mirroring
32. And I would say the other one different as well. So that used to make them go, oh gosh.
So you've got these educational issues of
Yes.
dysgraphia, dyscalculia, dyslexia. Then you've got developmental delays. You're not thriving as far as your health and size. You're very small in
Yeah,
size.
they had to get a special chair for me at
That
school.
would have been different. And you asked them, you're always
It's
the smallest in the
embarrassing
class.
because different colours.
Definitely. But that smallness
different
also,
colours.
I remember one specialist saying, your trunk size is actually quite compressed or
Yeah.
small. And that means all these organs are jumbled in there
Yeah.
tightly together,
My
but it doesn't
first-
give them space.
My first colonoscopy, when my bowels started failing, basically, that's which we now know. But basically, yeah, he said, look, you've got a very short trunk. And he said, look, you've also got very tight stomach muscles. And I said, well, I would say that that's like muscle memory possibly, but also I do believe, I used to think it was the gym because I was going to the gym at that time when that first colonoscopy happened because I was so much younger, but I actually put it down to now with 22q, you are born with innate anxiety and fear.
Mm-hmm.
And it never leaves you. You have to live with
That's
it.
part of the
You have to
condition.
learn to live with it,
Absolutely.
right? And I have done that. But the tension in here is where your tension goes.
Yeah, quite
and
common,
your back, but you know, your core. So it's just been how I am. I've always had tight stomach muscles. My childbirths were very easy. I've always
You
had
just
tight
pop them
stomach
out.
muscles.
It's just like a hand pass in an Aussie rule football. They just go flung right out. In fact, very, very quickly.
Don't get
Quick!
caught in traffic.
Should we
next
have it in
time.
half an hour? It's like, and you've had 2 normal births. Now,
But,
talking about
yeah.
the smallness and size, I had to measure your head once, and that was just before I went to the geneticist because I'm going, look, there's a lot of things
I
that don't
felt
add up.
very
I looked at your
offended.
face and I thought,
I was
there's
very
certain facial
offended.
features, but I measured your head and I went, hold on, that can't be right. And I checked the tape measure again. You know how you have to measure twice and cut
You were
once?
that like.
I measured it 3 times and it's like, really? And I looked at the graph, the table. She's got the small head size, it's like less than 1% of the Australian population.
Yeah.
What's that called?
Microcephaly.
So not only is your trunk small, but your
Now,
head
they
size
would
is
have
small.
known
and
that
it's
as
all
a
jammed in
baby.
there.
They would have known that as a baby.
Yep.
And they would have known all what comes with it. I'm talking about my parents.
And interesting when you talk about ME/CFS,
Yes.
myalgic encephalitis, that means brain inflammation. You don't have much room for your brain to actually swell
No.
with conditions of viral load from different things.
And I get the
And
inflammation.
there's pressure. So that actually makes a lot of sense.
It hurts. I
Mm.
feel like when I describe it, I feel like my brain is popping out of my ears.
Yeah.
I feel like my ears being pushed off of my scalp. My scalp is just under pressure. Like it's not a headache. It's pressure pain. And
Wow.
it's really intense.
We're going to talk about your head in a moment because you've got some neurological things that go on as well. Also,
Yeah.
power training for kids. But staying with the school time and thing, the
Ooh.
gels, the canaries.
They're playing.
So excited.
This is when they fly around.
Yeah.
Maybe they're playing chasey.
But you would have been
Sorry.
distracted at school because of things like
Distraction.
that, or the fish tank over there, or the lawnmower man out there.
Is that
Because
why
you've got-
is that why they never put them by the window? And I
Never
always
put them
used
by
to-
the window.
You know when they get you to
Flickering
stand
fluorescent
up,
lights.
get your tray out, and they're about to move you. I always used to go window, window, window. Please, please,
I remember that
please,
sort of
window.
time.
Never window.
Never. No. That's a shame.
That would have been why.
Because you're easily distracted. You've got a lot of stimming towards, again, an autistic trait. But you have auditory processing as a concern.
Yeah.
You have...
Yeah, so I don't process instructions. When I go to X-ray, ultrasound, MRI, everything, guys, I'm telling you, they've all got it written down. And I reckon not because I've been saying to them, I've got mild neurocognitive, which is predominant to dementia. But basically, I have memory problems from 22q and mild cognitive neuro
disorder.
disorder.
Yeah, M&D.
So basically, I reckon they've done it for their own sake because they're
Yeah.
like, I just want to get this person because they're under tight schedules, guys.
Absolutely.
And they've got to get people in and out, right?
But as we've
Because it's
learned-
overpopulated in Australia. It's
We have to
ridiculous.
slow instructions down, one instruction at a time.
Yeah.
And make sure there's clarity before we go into the
Yeah.
second instruction. Don't overwhelm you.
And to keep still, you should try MRIs. Keep still.
Very difficult
Keep
for an
still.
autistic.
Keep
You may have
still.
seen in some of the
Don't
videos I've said,
move.
just sit still for 10 seconds
You're gonna
even.
mess up
She
the-
can't do that.
It's horrible.
Now,
It's-
apart from that, with autism, you've got alexithymia and you also have interoception. What are those two things?
Okay, so alexithymia is actually quite sad because that's what affects my social relationships because I cannot read emotions in others
Mm-hmm.
as well as I cannot read my emotions.
Mm.
So I can resolve my emotions if I have people that are compassionate enough to understand, hey, I'm noticing that you're irritable or you're this or you're that. What are you feeling? And then I get my emotions cards. I pick 3 or 4. If it's 4 if it's a bad day. If I'm feeling a lot of feelings,
A lot of feelings going on.
but I don't know what it is,
Yeah.
okay, I get 4 cards out. But generally I get 3.
So they help
And
us
then
to
we
talk
do,
through them, don't they?
we do a social story on each card.
Hmm.
And we normally work out,
Root
I'm
cause.
feeling no, but not only just the cause, the extension of each 3 cards have more emotions in them
Yeah.
that I didn't know I was having. Now, I also need others who I'm in a relationship with of any kind to say to me, I'm feeling this,
Yeah.
I'm feeling
Explain.
that.
You can't read
Because
minds.
I can't read other people's emotions and body language and everything. So
Mhm.
it's very hard having alexithymia. Having
Interoception.
interoception problems, that caused me problems as a child. I used to hold on to wee, which caused infections, because I just didn't know that was something you shouldn't do. It was just something I used to do because I was so excited at what I was doing. I had no time to wee. No, we're not.
Busy.
Sorry, no time.
But you don't even know if you're hungry
I'm enjoying
or
this.
thirsty.
Yeah, so
or in pain.
I ended up in hospital as a child because I not forgot.
Well, that's a good word for that, because you really
I
ignored
guess
it and didn't understand
when
it.
my mum stopped doing the thing of
The actions.
I don't know, where they get you, here's your lunch physically because you're young, they know they have to.
Yeah.
And on the weekends was only really that because I had to make my own lunch when I went to school. But that was when I was older. So say when you're younger, and this would have been like in that crossover probably where my mum was trying to step back and go, you just feed yourself. Well, it didn't happen. And drink for yourself. It didn't happen. And I ended up in hospital because I just wasn't eating and drinking. I didn't know to. I didn't get the signal. When I tell people, no, I don't know what the feeling hungry thing is. And they go, yes, you do.
And that's also very true with pain. It's very difficult for Dyan to understand what the pain is, where it is, and what's causing it. So
what
we
it
have to
feels
work through
like.
that part
So
of
you can
things as
imagine
well.
a doctor, a specialist going, what does it feel like? And I'm like, that's the hardest question in the world.
Definitely. So when you do a pain scale, forget
I
it.
don't know.
Funny enough with that as well, you may have seen with the children they have the different pictures or the colours, and the pictures show whether it's a angry face or a sad face. With facial blindness, which is another thing,
I don't
good
know
luck
those
on that.
faces.
You can't interpret what they even mean.
Unless it's a ridiculous, then I go, okay, that's a happy face. But is that happy to see me, or are you happy?
No.
So do you see what I mean?
Definitely, that's a
All
big deal.
of these things don't mean anything to me.
And that's also part of communication.
They need to word it. So I reckon they need a word scale, if that makes sense. And they do put a bit of words above it, but it still doesn't work.
Yeah.
So what I've done uniquely for what works for me, because I do think everyone's different. With my speech therapist, we have worked out a scale that I have a folder I take to ED, for example, for people that don't know me. And I open it and go, well, forget your pain scale. Here's how I operate, and this is what's going on.
And that's part of it.
Unless I'm so out of it, which was the last situation.
Yeah, that's very difficult.
I could not breathe or speak, and I was passing out. With my heart event, I could not have gone, and I think they pretty much guessed it was 10 out of 10, because if you weren't 10 out of 10, you'd be able to speak.
So you used an augmentative alternative communication or an AAC device, both on the iPad, but also a printed version, particularly in a hospital environment.
I have a printed version just in case, for whatever reason.
You were selectively mute as a child up to 11 years of age. Tell us about that.
So I started to talk a lot more at 12, 13. But
she hasn't stopped since then, by the way. She's been catching up, I think.
I did actually.
I did,
It's very much true.
It is true.
So being an ADHD kid physically and being able to speak to peers in an immature way though, guys, I am developmentally delayed. I am mentally delayed. So just because I can speak like an adult, that's because I am. But I am the age of 18 to 21. So there are things that I miss
We had her tested.
about things. 15 hours testing by neuropsych. It's just how it is. But I'm just saying, like, I can communicate with adults.
Absolutely.
But there are things that will go, and I won't notice.
Yeah.
And they won't notice because they expect, but you're 50.
And it's actually confusing with autism because of the masking side of things. You've also studied psychology, but realistically, when you stepped out of high school with the educational delays, you're really at a early primary school level rather than a high school level. So you had those developmental delays. You went on to
I had a
take
teacher that actually said to me in year 8, first couple of weeks of year 8, "Are you meant to be here?" I'm in the uniform. I'm thinking, dude, what do you mean? Do you think I'd buy the uniform and sneak in for fun? Because I want to be with the cool kids? I was like, yeah. He goes, will you put up a grade? I was like, oh, shit. He does not know me. You think I'm smart? Now, I know I am now, but I wasn't then.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't then. I actually wasn't then because no one took the time to educate me.
To teach you
My
the way
mum
that you
didn't do
need
the
to learn.
nursery rhymes. My mum didn't read me books. My mum didn't do spelling and calculations and all. None of that. So I never had any of that. So I'm literally like, what the? He goes, you put up a couple of grades? I'm like, whew. He thinks I'm smart. I'm going to hang around him a bit more often.
That's
Make him just think that.
Yeah.
And anyway, I was tiny because in high school, my friends were all like...
Head and shoulders above.
Yeah, I was hitting their shoulder.
I can understand why you asked that question then.
So in the big, because I was a foundation student, meaning we started the school,
So,
we had this massive picture, right? Massive picture.
Of everybody,
and all the teachers in the front and all of us students, you can't see me.
Where's Wally?
I
Or
finally
where's Dyan?
found me.
Did you?
Half of my face.
Oh no.
And I'm tiny behind someone else. And I'm
Oh, you're tucked away in a corner.
yeah.
Nobody puts
In the
baby in the
middle.
corner.
It's in the middle somewhere, but
Yeah.
boy, was it hard to find me.
Indeed. So let's explain some of the autism and educational side of things. A funny, interesting part of 22Q, you've actually got separate diagnosis of this condition, another rare disorder called Ehlers-Danlos.
Yeah,
And you've got
another
hypermobility.
rare
There's
one.
14 different types
Woohoo!
of it. The type 3 or hypermobility can't be tested genetically, but is actually part of 22Q. You found out that you were very flexible at age 3 when you went to your first dance or calisthenics class, and the teachers got really excited.
Yep,
because
did
you
the
did what?
splits.
You did the splits.
And all the other girls are like grunting and groaning, trying to get into the splits. They're going, ugh.
And you just fell straight into it, didn't you?
It's hard. It's this. Sorry, girls, I don't mean to get you so excited.
They get excited when mummy's talking.
Yeah, they get excited because I'm going to make them ADHD, aren't I?
I think so.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
We all get too excited. They love my dancing.
Yeah, and singing.
Yeah.
And everything.
Bit
Yes.
concerning. They're going to be noisy. Great. Okay, so basically they're all like, I can't get into the splits, and I just went, first day, first class. So both teachers came over, because one teacher was already in front of me. She points down to me and calls the other teacher over and tells my mum
Yeah.
she's got to come back.
So you've had 2 rheumatologists now test you, particularly using the Bateman scale,
Yeah.
which is a 9-point indication
And I've
of
always scored
flexibility.
9.
You're 9 out of 9. At even age
I'm
50.
not supposed to score 9, guys. It's
her
not a
head
good
turns
thing.
around all the wrong ways. That's
It's
what
not
her
a good
chiro
thing.
said as well.
I'm supposed to score 3 to 4 at my age. It's not actually a good thing.
No.
But it is what it is.
But with that hyperflexibility,
Well, yeah, the ovaries scare them.
organs move. Okay.
She's like, no, I've got to find it. I'm like, just forget it. It'll come back.
You'll come back around eventually. But that's...
She's like,
it's-
no,
We laugh, but at the same time it's not good.
Because they don't
Organs
see it
can
every
rupture
day.
as part of vascular EDS.
Well, they don't see it every
The
day.
GI tract, your whole GI tract is immobile now, and it's got
Yeah.
gastroparesis,
It just goes floppy.
which is because of
Flop.
having EDS.
Flop.
So your
Flop.
bowels haven't worked in the last
Crash.
15 years,
Crash.
particularly.
No.
So we need
'Cause
lots of medication to get
basically-
things moving, don't we?
I have been born lacking a few things. And when you look at Ehlers-Danlos and being on 22Q, when you're lacking genes, think about it. You guys got all, like, some people got super glue.
Yes.
I got clag.
Yeah, exactly. So it's the collagen, the connective tissue that's meant to
Shit,
bring
clag
things
glue-
together.
clag
It's
glue
very
is for preschool.
mobile for her. So also your skin can stretch, your skin can
Oh.
tear.
I've
We've always
scratched
got Band-Aids
myself
around.
with my own nails. It's become a problem because I have square nails. They grow square.
Yeah, cut them back.
Everyone has a different. I'm a nail technician, thank you.
That's one of the things you studied, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Except for the chemicals that then became insensitive to, so she
Asthma.
couldn't actually become and do that. So
Shut up.
between asthma,
It was so creative.
respiratory and
fun.
breathing, you talked about it.
But
You've had
anyway.
bronchitis and you've had
Yeah.
pneumonia before.
But I have second skin.
That's a product that you put on.
Highly recommend
Flexible,
Ehlers-Danlos
transparent.
people.
It is very good, isn't
because
it?
your skin. Because if I'm in the water too long and it happens a
But it
lot.
forces you to have
It
a lot of
happens a
splints
lot.
as well.
I love
You've got
water.
orthotics now from the podiatrist for your shoes
Yeah,
and
I
feet.
thought I was going to the podiatrist for the first time. And I was like, nothing's going to be wrong except for maybe the operated foot, right? Maybe that foot. I've had a toe that's been
Bone
injured,
spur,
right?
yep.
So basically, they had to go in, take some bone out that was dead apparently, and some spurs, tidy it all up, cut some tendons.
All those
Lovely,
things,
isn't it? Yeah. And now I don't get pain. It was worth it. But basically, I thought maybe that one might need a bit of an orthotic or something.
Yep.
I don't know. Anyway, I go in there. She does all the testing, and she goes, "Oh, I know Ehlers-Danlos very well. I have a lot of patients." So I was like, "Oh, that's handy. That's good." Still didn't think much of it. Yeah. Came out of that with you've got this,
Drop
this,
arches,
this,
rolling
this.
ankles, affecting your knees. Yeah, you need orthotics. And
And
that's a common
guess
thing.
what? I still wasn't convinced. Because I've been so brainwashed by my mother that
Yeah.
mainstream medicine
That's
is
important to
rubbish.
actually say that.
But hang on.
No, it's
that
important.
when I wore them, I had no pain.
Shock.
At the end of that
Mhm.
time of being out using them, I was like, I normally have pain of a certain kind. What's going on?
That gaslighting, not only from your mum, but also the
a
health system
self-gaslighting.
early on, you have become a self-gaslighter.
Yeah.
And I've got to go, are you kidding me? You
Yeah,
really are autistic.
I'm not having a seizure.
You know, for a start.
I'm not going to have
You
a
really
seizure.
are having a seizure.
No.
Seriously. But with
the
EDS
aura
and the
is
hyper...
just your imagination.
with the hypermobility, you have now got splints for every body part so that things don't go out. And even your fingers, every finger has got a silver splint.
Well, the problem too is, apart from Earl-Loss-Down loss, guys, with 22q, the most painful experience, I think, not the most dangerous, I guess, but the most painful is I've got CCI, 3 bulging discs. It's a degenerative syndrome. So my time to live is any day now.
Absolutely, you exceeded that.
So I've exceeded it as a very sick one as well. So it's very concerning every day, but my spine is collapsing and it will continue to collapse. So they're going to have to keep an eye on that.
Let's talk about the spine for a moment, because that's another very important part, the skeletal system. So not just with hypermobility, but
is painful.
CCI, cranial, cervical instability. The neck is not stable. You've got bone spurs, you've got pressure in things, you've got impingements, stenosis.
I wear a neck brace a lot, guys.
Particularly if you're traveling or moving around. You've got different bulging discs going down. You've got scoliosis of the spine where you've got the S-curve.
And that's gotten
Things
worse,
ain't
by the way, as
That's
well.
painful.
They said that it's gotten worse.
I'm not surprised with
Didn't think it
EDS
could.
that when you wake up in the morning, starting your day, your pain level starts at a 7. That's your baseline.
Yeah.
And it's very easy to go up to that 10 in such a short space. So we
See,
spend a lot of time
we wake up a lot,
massaging
10
and
out of
trying
10.
to deal with your pain.
We wake up a lot, 10 out of 10.
You're such a pain. You poor thing. I really feel sorry for you.
I hate it. And I hate the fact that because I can't take opiates, family of
You're
any
allergic
kind.
to a lot of things.
I hate the fact that the system isn't giving me what I deserve, which is pain relief.
Absolutely. It makes it a challenge.
But that's a whole complex thing. My rheumatologist is not happy about it.
No, you should be an IV ketamine, for example.
He said that you are in so much pain with this condition. And he's frustrated, but he can't do anything.
No.
Because the public system doesn't play nice, guys. It's all about money. It is no longer about your suffering, guys. Just know that in Australia. Be very careful. Get private cover.
Speaking of...
Because you will not be cared about.
And I understand.
They don't give a
can't.
shit about you. You're a money maker, and if you can't be a money maker, and with syndromes like me, we're not a money maker. We're the minority. We're not a money maker. We spend a lot of the money.
Yeah.
But we deserve it.
But
we deserve healthcare and to be quality of care till death.
Having the diagnosis is also very important, because then you can manage and treat the condition, and that's why getting to that point, getting the research and information,
but in Australia,
should have, and I use that word should very loosely. Talking about the pain, another word, which is a Latin word for muscular pain, is fibromyalgia.
Yeah, that comes with
all body. Girls!
Wow.
Seriously.
They have a lot to say.
Probably
so I hope you can speak, Budgie, because that was obviously important. Basically, fibromyalgia, guys, if you're not aware and have Earl-Loss-Down loss, that is your pain.
Yeah.
The fibromyalgia is very painful.
Yeah.
That comes with Earl-Loss-Down loss.
Particularly because the muscles are taking over the joint structure stability of what the tendons and
the
ligaments are meant
muscles are the
to be
ones
doing.
that are really doing the work.
And I remember even young, when you were as a dancer, you would be in pain for all night, even just coming home from a dance class. It's so suffering. Shin splints, the whole lot of it, wasn't it?
Such fun.
Such fun. Now, look, most recently, and we've, to be honest, since probably 2011, you've had quite significant cardiac events. Part of things like having EDS and MECFS, you have conditions such as POTS, postural orthostatic
tachycardia
syndrome.
I diagnosed that a long time
ago. Which means as soon as you sit up,
the cardiologist
down,
that are probably
change.
I might pop back and see at some point, maybe.
Yeah.
She's been seeing me the most.
Yeah.
Since the first cardiac problem.
Correct.
Over a decade ago.
Where your arrhythmia and the angina and the POTS was coming through, but now
she diagnosed the POTS, and she sits down and she just looks at me and she goes, this doesn't make sense, because this normally comes with a disease or something serious.
Where's the disease?
And I said,
stop the disease,
well,
shall
I have MECFS, and she's like, no, it should be something more severe,
like a genetic syndrome, maybe.
Yeah, so...
Funny enough, 13 years later, we find out the answer to that, don't we?
But she's a private one, so she's one that's actually...
Yeah.
She does care, because she's just there she gets paid, but she's actually in it for the right reasons. She doesn't want to
No.
gaslight people.
No, she's very honest.
Doctors in the public system, I'm sorry, but it's devil's money, guys.
Absolutely. And it's too
You're taking
compartmentalised.
money
They don't
from
work
a
together.
system, and you get probably KPIs for minimizing the cost that you spend on your patients. That is a ethical choice, doctors, that you make every day if you are letting down. And I'm not saying the ones that do their best but then they get let down by the system. I'm talking about doctors that don't give a shit about you at all.
No.
And they save everything by gaslighting you, literally.
I'm sick of medical gaslighting. It is horrendous.
You are working for the
towards
devil.
females.
You're
Absolutely.
working for the devil, and that's dark money.
So
And
sticking
have
on the
fun with
heart,
that
so we've
dark
got
money.
POTS, which is an orthostatic
Come as a
intolerance.
bitch.
That means
Come
every
as a
time
bitch.
Dyan sits up, that affects
Should've
her. She
done
can
better.
faint and pass out. It
Sorry.
changes her blood pressure.
Jojo
We've got the
Siwa.
arrhythmia, which is a fluttering of the heart. You've got angina, which is an intense pain
Ow,
in the chest.
that
Now
really
she's got a
hurt
sore
my
head.
head.
We shouldn't have done that. So do you. But problems now with cardiac, her involvement has actually increased. Now during the seizures, we've seen
dear.
real massive spikes and issues around the heart. But now outside of it, after COVID, not so long ago,
Yes.
post-COVID, you've got this pericarditis, you've got inflammation going on, you've got breathlessness, you've got this edema. Things have changed. We've got cardiac things going on. What's this edema all about?
Well, it's looking like heart failure.
Yeah.
So basically, it was quite funny. And I have to tell this story because there was a very nasty specialist who I had a wrong appointment with. It's very funny now, not at the time.
It was very rude.
It's going to be very interesting for the next cardiology appointment. But he's like, this is the advanced cardiology. This is for people
Advanced heart failure.
that are having a heart failure. And I'm like, I didn't make this appointment, mate. I'm here because I was given
A referral.
a referral, like basically my geneticist wanted me seen by a cardiologist, dude. And I got told by your admin to come in for an appointment. I didn't know anything about who I was seeing. Because when you're in public, guys, in Australia, you don't get told anything, really.
No.
If you're lucky if you get told the doctor's name, you're lucky. So basically, he was so rude to me. And then here we are, right? Because he's like, oh, what could be possibly wrong, you know? Is probably what he was thinking. Well, my geneticist wanted me checked out for 22q late diagnosis because the life expectancy is 50s. Okay, this was when I was 49, but heading to 50s. I'm now 50. And it's like, look at it now. It's like, oh,
And the primary
we're
number
there
one
now.
cause of death in 22q patients will
Cardiac.
be cardiac-related conditions. You've got a grandfather who had a triple bypass at 50, a father
yeah,
who's
who
had
knows?
a
It could
heart
be
attack
that.
at 35.
It could be something genetic with that.
There's issues.
How do
But
we
now
know?
here we've got arthrosis,
We don't
where
know
there's
yet.
a narrowing of your coronary arteries.
Yes.
You have got bicuspid and
Chest
tricuspid
pain
valves
daily.
which are regurgitating, so they
Something
can't
like
actually
that.
close and seal up correctly.
Sounds gross.
So many things that are going on, but if you don't test, you don't
Yeah,
find.
I haven't had all my heart tests
It's funny
done.
about that concept about that. If you don't test, you don't find. I want to get the shirt that says that because that's my favourite statement. When they did some tests a while
Or you
ago,
don't listen, you don't
correct.
find too.
I asked them to do some tests. So when they did some tests of the brain, and they did a CT scan originally, and then they did an MRI, the CT found bilateral calcification of the basal ganglia
Yeah, I also have
and
a
the
thing
pineal
called
gland.
Fars disease,
Fast
which,
disease.
you know, is
Interesting.
something that runs in families as
Mhm.
well, guys. So, you know, it is important to know that because when you've got, like in the old-fashioned days before DNA, see, I've got DNA, I'm lucky. This is all, I've got a lot of this in absolute proof, 99.9%,
Yep.
right? And I had symptoms before it. So it's like, this is no bullshit. And basically, Fars disease can be seen on a CT.
Absolutely.
And it is seen in families, and
Mhm.
I do have
And
it.
it doesn't matter the quantity,
And I
the
have
fact that you've got it.
symptoms that match it.
Walking, ataxia,
Yeah.
neurological, seizures. Funny about that. When they did the MRI, they then found
Migraines.
yeah,
But that was the least
myelation
of my problems. It was
of the grey matter, which is migraines, but also can lead into
but it's
seizures, and
It
pain.
was
So
improving my seizures.
you've got
yeah.
this small head size and also neuroinflammation because of the
Microcephaly
infections.
is commonly related to seizures.
Absolutely.
And learning and developmental disabilities.
multiple
and
viral
intellectual
loads.
disabilities.
Funny
So I
about
guess
that.
when I talk about my mental age, you've got to add that with the IDD. That's what that is. And you don't have to be, and I know that it's a great thing that we've got on social media, the severe people out there on social media. I'm not going to say that's a bad thing, and I'm not going to take that away from them. But you've got to remember it is kind of a spectrum, and there's some of us on there, and it's actually harder for me to be understood as a 50-year-old with a social mental age, with the IDD age of an 18 to 21-year-old.
Absolutely.
I get told off so much because it's expected by society that I'm 50.
Funnily enough, though, in the clinical medical information for 22q, the recommendations are in the transitions from childhood, from the 18 into adult, is that the patients have actually got guardianship to support them through the rest of their life.
So in Australia, when Matt went to the conference, most parents take guardianship immediately of their 18-year-old child, because 22q is one of those syndromes.
There's vulnerabilities.
There is major vulnerabilities, and that didn't happen for me. So not only was I failed as a child, it became a failing of adulthood too. And I have asked along the way my parents' help, and I have not received adequate help. In fact, it's been thrown in my face, it's been used in quite abusive ways, it's been quite upsetting.
Misused, absolutely.
Because I do need help, I will always need help. Even down to my children not understanding this. Now, I give them more leeway being young, and they can only understand so much, and I know maybe in their future they might see it differently, but with my parents, I mean, I'm not saying that it's acceptable behaviour to disregard your mum because you think that it's embarrassing a disability,
awkward,
because you want to be rich and
popular,
fancy looking and popular, and hang out with the rest of the crowd that neglected me. You know, but the fact is, I should have had guardianship and someone looking after me. And trust me, I have been through not only medical neglect, I have been abused in systematic abuse situations. I have been abused by family, friends, family members. I have been so abused in so many age groups that is always goes back to my parents never took responsibility. Because guys, there's one thing we know about our children, is we know our children, right?
Yep.
My parents knew at 18 that I wasn't a typical 18-year-old. And let's just put it this way, if that was my child, I wouldn't have let them out of my sight. I wouldn't have stopped checking on them. I wouldn't have stopped making sure that everyone around them is treating them right, because the abuse that I suffered as an adult is, I should be writing a book about it.
Absolutely.
As a tale of caution.
Yeah, cautionary tale.
You do need a guardian.
And that's very important. It's interesting in the area of psychiatry, because a lot of things do go in the 22q space to that particular area. And you've been cleared.
I've seen a few,
and you've seen a few. And the interesting part about
I've
that,
seen a public one and a private one, and they both cleared me.
Because they wanted you to be looked at for the get some scans.
So basically the first
Something's
one,
going on in there.
and they're like 20, not 20 years apart, probably 15 years apart, maybe, right? So the public one was the first one, and he said, oh my gosh, like, you do realise your parents are criminals. This behaviour is criminal. And I said, well, yeah, I do, but of course I kind of didn't, in my own headspace, put them together. You don't want to see your parents as people that can commit a crime, right? You don't want to see that, hear that, but it was hard. However, I had suffered a lot because of the lack of protection. When you get harmed, either by them or other people around them, because they did not look after you, that is not okay. So anyway, I realised, oh gosh, yes, that is really bad. And then when I was like, well, hang on, but everyone's sort of pointing at me, isn't there something wrong with me? They're like, the first one was like, no, you are just a flower that just needs to blossom, for goodness sake, because I was quite young at the time. You know, you need to just live your life and get rid of these people out of your life. That's not right. They don't deserve you even on their deathbed, because they have treated you so criminally. And anyway, the second one, he said to me, because, you know, once again, the system telling me that being a woman, I'm crazy. I'm like, what what's going on, you know? And I even had like, you know, this great experience of a 2-week inpatient stay at a private clinic. And it was wonderful. The nurses were like, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, don't know, like, read the file. And they kept reading the file and going, it's not you. I'm like, yeah, but that's what the public system likes to say about me, as in the hospital system and the people that obviously want to gaslight me, right?
You to find out.
Exactly. So basically,
they did laugh at your OCD though.
So, you know, the nurses shook their head. They didn't want me to leave, as in they were happy I was going home. They didn't want me to leave. I got hugs, and I don't give hugs. But I give hugs to people that treat me
genuinely
in a way, especially in a professional way, you know, when they treat me professionally and treat me well. Because there's a lot of, in Australia, I don't know why, guys, but professionals just get this, you know, I'm better than you, shit attitude.
Very
but basically, they were very lovely. So they're like, no, there's nothing wrong with you. Don't know why you're here, but it's been great to know you. And anyway, hugs and stuff. But yeah, my psychiatrist came in and said, well, you do have OCD, which is not uncommon with autism and ADHD, right? So we all know those.
That trifecta. Autism, ADHD, and OCD.
So he said, look, your thoughts go in loops. The only thing I can say is you need to go off on your own to a space and do something you like to do to see if you can stop that, or take a tablet, which is like, you know, a Valium or whatever, to stop that brain just over going. Because he said you've got no control. And I really feel for you, because there is no control that you have on this. This is the condition. And then he was like, yeah, he looked at my room and said, it's a little tidy, isn't it? And I said, yeah, I like it like this. And then I remembered the OCD, what he said, and I was like, oh gosh, this is also a test. Yeah. And I said, yeah, I'm pretty...
Yeah. And at 7:46 and 30 seconds every morning, you do this.
Oh, he read out my daily schedule, and I was like, and I thought, oh, it's the nurses dobbing on me, isn't it? They've been dobbing on me the whole 2 weeks.
Yeah, kind of.
Right? I made the best of friends in there. But I'm just saying, I had a lot of alone time. Yeah. And they all thought I was weird for it. But I'm autistic, right?
Yeah,
so you got to go in your shell.
Yeah.
But basically, he's like, I just want to... The psychiatrist is sitting there and he goes, I just want to mess up your room. I said, why would you want to do that?
That's just wrong.
He's like... No, I seriously want to mess up your room.
All right, so some of the other conditions which are in this same space of neurology, and look, it's been quite popular on places like TikTok and whatever else, has been the Tourette side of things. Now, we don't do any cooking shows with eggs and things like you.
We don't do stupid things at stupid times.
Because I'm not cleaning it up.
We don't take me to the church, for example.
No.
When I'm having coprolalia.
Coprolalia is when you have expletives and
guess what? For all of you, that's my mattress, not me.
Squeaky mattress, yep.
All of you hypocrite Christians or any other religion, you come at me about swearing. I'm just going to say this. God doesn't care about those things. He cares about my intentions, my heart, what I do, and what I really am about, okay? So don't be preaching. That's what Jesus said. Yeah. Jesus was the preacher. Yeah. Nobody else is a preacher. Shut up.
So she does have vocal and physical
I'm just saying, I believe in God.
Don't it is exacerbated with neurological conditions. What we find is with the ASM, the anti-seizure medications, it dampens it down. So if the medications aren't effective enough, then the Tourette's unfortunately does come out.
Which is kind of sad.
Dyan is a person who studied not only psychology and welfare, but has worked in the community helping other people.
Yeah.
Okay, she's a very empathetic
social welfare
person.
Is my
She really tries to help, and this is part of her channel is advocacy, to try and get the message out, to inform, to educate, to support others who've got these various different types of conditions.
I love doing it because you know what? I have suffered so much physical, emotional, psychological pain. I've got a narcissistic family, guys. I am still being tortured.
Yep.
Still being tortured with my children being used against me. I have suffered what people should not suffer. Evil, okay? And I'll tell you this. Like, I believe I have something to give from that. I really, really do. Because I have been challenged. And I don't want any of you to feel the pain I felt.
No.
I wouldn't wish it on anyone.
It
is the most painful experience, whether it's the psychological or whether it's physical pain. It doesn't matter, guys, what you're going through. Both are just as horrible.
Yeah.
Okay, and if I can prevent some of it or I can help it,
Yeah.
I love that factor because I don't want people going through what I
Dyan
went
brings
through.
joy to the world. Okay, she really is
Joy
a spark
to
every
the
single day,
world.
and she's got echolalia. I won't say that as well. In the neurological space,
Said that
you
one.
have had
That was a good phrase,
you
wasn't
had
it?
dyspraxic walking.
Now that's
You've got
stuck in my head.
ataxia, so you obviously ping. I call it pinball. You literally pinball off the walls
I
as you
do
move
it
around.
well though, don't I?
You
With
do everything
grace,
well with grace. You
with
fall.
talent.
She's a falls risk.
Little
She
bit of
falls
choreography.
with grace. Absolutely into a beautiful pose at the end of it.
Oh, I laugh when I fall, my mum.
Yeah, and you do that a
The
bit.
problem is, God, tell me this. Where's the padding on my bum?
Yes, she's a bony bum. Doesn't have much of that, sadly.
You know what I need to get? There's actually knickers out there with pads on the bum.
Glutamaxis lips. Yeah,
Yes.
okay, I don't think so.
Chicks are cheating. They're cheating. Not
Yeah.
only with the fake tan, the fake teeth, the fake hair, the fake everything.
Yeah, you don't have anything fake.
Else?
You're the authentic, and that's the thing about
No,
Dyan's
I'm not
presentation on
saying
screen. It
if
might
you
not be for
go get-
everybody, but she's very true and authentic.
I'm not saying though if you get eyelashes, fingernails done that you're all fake. It once again, heart first. But I'm just saying we know the ones that do the fakey thing and the fakey inside stuff. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
kind of.
From an eating perspective, we call it EDS because it's eating, drinking, and swallowing. You have dysphagia, and that's got worse. And it's also a neurological thing where
Yeah,
your
it
body's not
sucks.
autonomously working the way that it's meant to do.
So
You swallow things
really
or choke and
like
aspirate. You know,
The Italian
you like nice food.
minestrone soup, is it?
Yeah, too thin.
No, it's the combo.
Right.
The problem is, while the mouth is trying to eat
Yep.
the components, my mum used to make a lot of Italian food. I miss it.
Yeah.
Anyway, and you eat right, and she'd make the homemade soup kind
Yeah.
of. And I'm trying to eat there's bits in it, and there's liquid that's very thin.
Yeah.
So while I'm eating the yummy stuff, the liquid's going down, and
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
choking.
Not good.
So that's out for me.
Yeah, and you throw that into having gastroparesis where you have obviously something vegetation or GERD.
Slow
and-
transit.
oh my god, the
It
whole
won't break
stomach
down. It
What an
won't
annoyance.
pass through.
So you're on
No,
a very
no, 'cause I
restricted
want
diet.
pizza.
You're gluten free,
pizza.
so you can't tolerate that.
want
Lactose
pizza.
free because you can't tolerate that. She doesn't get to have real food.
I want pizza.
I think it's more
want
fun eating the
Macca's.
box rather
I
than
want
what's in it.
KFC. I
But
want
you
to
can't
be
have
a
it.
fatty.
Don't
I
have
want
to
to be a
have 8
fatty.
to 10 small little meals like a little bird.
I
those
want
birds.
to be a fatty. I want chicken treat.
But you can't hold the weight. And you've always been underweight, haven't you? And that's part of the condition.
It's not fair.
No. Now,
I
Dawn has
want-
had
what's
a
that
nasal
song?
gastric tube before, but her body rejected it. It actually,
KFC, McDonald's, chicken treat.
yeah, that one.
Pizza
So her
Hut,
body
da,
had to be
da, da.
tubed because her weight got
don't
so
know it.
dangerously low.
Oh,
But the problem with that is her body rejected it because
hungry.
it doesn't like foreign bodies, and it started to have shutdown of organs and things as well, and caused more seizures. Not a good thing to be in. So they had to be removed. You're on hospital drinks as well to keep the nutritional balance of things. Your calories
Sick of
in.
them.
They
I'm
suck a bit.
sick of them.
I'm
They're
sorry.
very good.
But we do have a
very
lot of
nutritious,
electrolytes as
very
well.
thick. A bit like a
Because
thick.
thick shake.
A bit like a thick shake. They're
Okay.
actually highly recommend. Look, if you've got gastroparesis, the ones that make you feel the least sick, right? Coffee,
Yep.
brilliant one. No, actually, no, sorry, take back. Chocolate is number one. Coffee,
Mm-hmm.
vanilla is the last.
Okay. Banana.
Okay, banana.
Banana. That was your top favourite, to
am I
be
missing-
honest.
They were my top favorites, and then I had vanilla as an emergency.
Just what I'm thinking
Because
about
vanilla, for some reason, it was so sweet tasting.
Too sweet?
When you've got gastroparesis, if you have something very sweet or
Yeah.
something very fatty, it's a real trigger.
Yeah. So
It's like,
So eating is a difficult thing. Drinking is a
can
difficult
actually-
thing as well. You have enough fluids. Your fluids are balanced with electrolytes because you have an electrolyte
Cheers.
imbalance. And an imbalance on electrolytes can also lead to seizures. It's very atypical with 22q to have difficulties with things like your magnesium and your calcium
Yeah.
and all those sort of
I don't
combinations.
retain things. I don't keep
You
things
don't.
in my body.
And in fact, pyrols, which is also something similar,
yeah,
autistic can be seen. Zinc
yeah, the person who
vitamin B,
diagnosed me with pyrrols, he goes, right,
deficiencies.
and he's writing up this thing for pathology, and I'm thinking, pathology? You've diagnosed me with autism, and now you want pathology.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Why? What's wrong with me
Because with autism,
physically,
you should
right?
expect to find some things.
So then he goes, well, there's a few conditions that you might have because you've got autism. And I was like, now this is a long time ago. This is before TikTok, YouTube took off. This is before all of that,
Yep,
guys.
all of us, yeah.
And basically I'm like, this doctor's maybe it's
High
a bit
roll
weird.
disorder. It's known
And
as.
anyway, it's a frozen wee test. You wee, you race it to them, and like they put the sperms in, you know, in those things,
Yeah.
and eggs, and zoom, in that metal thing, and they wrap it in alpha, and they put it in the thing, and it's like right in front of you, and it's like, wow. And they take that frozen wee that's been frozen from hot
Cryogenic.
out of your body,
Yeah.
frozen, taken to Melbourne, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, wow. And I was like, I want the tracking of my wee.
You've had actually a lot of testing be sent
Where's
over
my
east,
wee?
but
Is
also
it flying
overseas.
over the Nullarbor right now?
It could be. You've had tests that have
Anyway,
been sent
it was
overseas
a weird
as well.
test.
as
But
part
get
of that.
tested for pyrroles
Yeah.
if you have autism, because you most likely will have
Deficiencies in
pyrroles.
things like iron, your D3, vitamin B group,
Magnesium,
zinc,
a lot of Bs. A
And of
lot
course,
of
your
Bs.
body's
There's
a
a list
chemistry
of
set.
Bs.
When you don't have your chemistry working together, it causes complications.
Energy. Just affects your energy.
You've also got.
I need to go bathroom.
Okay, so let's have
I
a
need
quick
to go
little pause.
bathroom.
That's the fun thing. You do that 30
I need
times
to
in a
go
day.
bathroom.
You and your bananas. Not even proper real ones. Okay, so taunting is a very common thing. Staying into this area of the abdomen, you've had hernias and you've actually got multiple of those.
I got 3.
They're not much fun.
I'm
Again,
not
there's an
lucky.
expectation around 22Q to get those sort of things.
Really?
Yep, and PCOS, polyovarian
Ow.
syndrome.
Painful. And I was gaslit for years, you.
Yeah.
Mm-mm-mm. Yeah, no, I used to have very painful moments
Yeah.
in my cycle and painful periods. Please persist if you do. It's not a joke,
No.
and they should be taking it seriously. Anyway.
Absolutely, and particularly when you have conditions with hypermobility, EDS, the flexibility of these different organs. Oh my goodness.
Well, the
me.
inflammation they found
Well,
in me.
PID, pelvic inflammatory disorder, which is another one of
Ow,
Dyan's
really
conditions.
hurts.
I remember seeing one doctor at one particular hospital.
Freak
who
out. Sucked in.
Absolutely freaked out once she
lying.
actually got the speculum in and looked around. It's like, oh my god, how are you surviving? Because this must be incredibly painful.
Thought I was full of shit, didn't you?
Yeah, it was actually very,
It wasn't.
very painful.
Well, I normally am, actually.
Yes, that's the constipation side of things. So those things happen in the abdomen little wall. But I wanted to stick back to neurology and once
Can
I
we
pass
just
those up.
say one thing?
One thing.
Because you're all
ET.
probably thinking that, oh my gosh, you're always bashing these doctors and they're so great. There's wonderful specialists and
There are
doctors,
some.
wonderful nurses, and some shit ones. There's all different kinds. But what I will say is, the reality is, please don't trust them all. Don't trust them all. Don't trust authority. Don't be an idiot.
Yep.
Have you not seen? I urge you to do this test, and I learnt this test that was to prove to me how much female safety in systems health department need to be fixed, not just at home. You listening?
Misogynist side of things.
Right? So basically, do a search in your, especially Australia, I don't know about other countries and how you do your newspapers, but in Australia, do a search, right? And use psychology, psychiatry, because these are the worst ones that capture the women from medical, and they take them. Look up sexual, oh, you know what I'm saying? Can't say it because of YouTube algorithm, and put in your, like, city, and maybe city and state. And there'll be something within the last week or two.
Oh, you'd be surprised.
In
how
your
many cases come
city
up, along
of
with medical
someone
negligence and failures.
committing that crime, and then, well, they can go and function 4 years later. Really? I don't think they're going to learn a lesson. Now, some situations I think are not all the same. Now, I'm talking about the ones I'm talking about, the cases I'm talking about are old men with women that are just 20-something.
Vulnerable.
Okay,
yeah.
vulnerable
Yeah.
as you can imagine.
Power imbalance.
Massive 20-year gap of age. That's gross. Okay, so I'm talking about really big deal ones that really should be looked at a lot more criminal than just two people in an awkward situation fell in love or something weird in the inappropriate situation. That happens. People are human. But what I'm saying is when you're dealing, look it up and look at each case. Stop trusting authority.
That's why I
Okay,
think chaperoning
trust the
should actually come into place
individual.
as well as guardianship.
Yep. Trust the individual as you go along. And if you trust them, and also, if you think it's a risk and you're taking that risk, that's on you. And you can't blame anyone for it.
Well, as we wrap up the body and the symptoms, we've gone through a lot of
What
different...
else about my body?
We've gone through a lot of
broken.
diagnoses. We're going to actually talk about the main one at the moment, which has been going for like the last 13
By
odd
the way,
years.
Tinkerbell loves her
Tinkerbell the fish.
her treasure chest.
She does actually. So this is probably the main one. So we've covered so many different key diagnoses amongst this sort of area.
What have we missed though? Because I'm sure
Well,
we've
the
missed
key
a few.
one is actually coming down to the last
Haven't we
part,
missed
which
a
is the
couple?
seizures that we're going to talk about now.
Ah, okay.
Because you've actually got 4 different types.
I've had so many.
Myclonus, which is like the jerks. You have got
I miss
absent,
just having
which
just
is
them.
brief gaps of, like a reboot, 3 to 8 seconds where your brain's
Yeah.
offline.
He
and
told me I was being rude one day when we
Rude
picked
little
up
bitch.
these
Jesus.
absents. He was like, "Why are you being so rude to me?" I was like, "What? We were just talking. How can I be rude? I'm invested in this conversation." He's like, "No, you're ignoring me." And we
videoing
kind of worked out that.
and using YouTube
And videoing.
has actually been the biggest
Well, look,
benefit for us
so
to
if
actually
you're not
start
a
to identify and
YouTuber,
pick things up.
and you're not a vlogger,
Mm-hmm.
just video. As soon as you see your person be
Yeah.
a bit, don't know,
Yeah.
just video it,
Yep.
right? Because if you don't know, someone else might know, like a
And have
professional,
those
whatever.
conversations. Yep.
Do it, seriously.
So I've covered myclonus, which is the tics and jerks, and that can be seen also with Tourette's. You've got the absent, which is just literally switching off. And you can have 20 or 30 of those in the course of a day. Normally they're before a major event. You've had focal aware seizures, where a key area
I've had a tick
specifically
attack
along. You've had
after
tick
my
attacks,
sleep
which is the Tourette's
study.
sort of thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But the key one for us, and the most dangerous one, unfortunately, is
was
the
bad.
tonic-clonic. Rigidity, and then the
I get a lot
shaking.
of them, unfortunately.
And she can
That's
go into
the scary
sets of those.
one.
And sets of those,
SUDEP.
which is the risk of sudden unexplained death from epilepsy. That's what SUDEP stands for. Particularly if they're happening at night time if you're not supervised.
Nocturnals, yeah.
But the rolling seizures, status epilepticus, where the seizures just keep going.
I've been
after
in
another,
hospital
after
for
another.
that before.
Like we had
Don't
the iron
have a
infusion.
9 infusion if you're epileptic.
26 seizures
Even
in
if
one
you're
day.
genetic epilepsy, do not have a iron infusion.
Yeah.
Now, if you're lucky enough it doesn't happen, I'd be surprised. Because it's in the literature.
It's in the literature for
Oh my gosh, guys. It set me. I was in hospital for 3 days. Could not stop seizing.
And that's the problem.
Eating in between seizures.
Seizures
Weird.
themselves, and particularly the tonic-clonic ones, we can get obviously oxygen deprivation. That's why Dyan's got a pulse oximeter on it, or we manage that. Lack of
Yeah,
oxygen to the
heart's not getting
brain.
enough
The heart is spiking 180, 200 beats. It's like
Not
she's
getting
running
enough oxygen.
a marathon.
As
She's
you
doing a
can tell.
high-intensity workout while she's just resting in a lying-down state. That heart is going off the charts. She can choke, aspirate. She's rolled over quite a few times and buried her face down into a pillow and couldn't breathe. So,
Well, there is seizure pillows, but
which has got holes in
I'm
them.
addicted to my. I've had this same type of pillow
Yeah,
for 20-something years.
30 plus years, I would
But
say.
anyway, I am actually considering, though,
Yeah.
maybe we should look into a seizure cushion
Yeah.
that is like the same
And
ergonomic
again,
shape
that's
for
all
my neck
cost.
problems.
Disability and illnesses
Yeah.
cost us as a household a
forget
fortune.
having a mortgage anymore. That goes out the window.
Dyan is on the NDIS for the last 5 years. That's the National Disability Insurance Scheme. The last 2 years of
We
such, we've
self-funded
actually
for
been put
25
onto
plus years.
SDA, Specialist Disability Accommodation. We have, we've self-funded. I
Yeah.
used to work,
Yeah.
I stopped working about 7 years ago when
We had
Dyan's
our own
condition got worse
mortgage.
because of the
Everything was
seizures.
great.
When
We had the-
she
we had
can't drive,
everything.
her license has been taken away from her. She has to be
Those-
supervised.
Those bastards.
Neurologically, she can't
Oops.
access things like
It's affected
medications and stuff
TV.
herself because she needs guidance and support as to what medications to get and treat so that she
Yeah.
doesn't take the wrong things at the wrong time.
Also got that
A lot of
license.
supervision.
I never even got a pen license. I worked
primary
out.
school, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I ever got
You
one.
didn't evolve to a pen license?
No, and merit certificates. That was
That's
just.
tokenism.
That was just. She's such a. She smiles so nicely. Also, and I'm like,
Wasn't exactly
even as a
achievement.
kid, I was like, this is that all you
Hey,
could
in
come
high
up
school you
with?
got them for
Is
phys
that
ed and
all
dance.
you could? Oh,
Come on, they were positive.
athletics carnival. I was like,
Look at all those ribbons and medals.
ribbons.
She was very fun. ADHD
Except-
can be a positive.
Except when I was put into,
Mm.
right, I had to swap with a friend of mine. Yep.
Yeah.
We had to share right? Running A and B. A is top level.
Division, right.
B division's
Slightly underneath
second. We had to swap.
Yeah,
Swip
swap over. You'll find we're
Not getting enough oxygen to the brain.
Yeah.
Heart. So basically, we had to swap over, and depending on who was running, so if the top runners of other factions were running, so if I was running against in A grade with the top ones of theirs in A grade, I was like, pressure. Okay, because when you are a good performer, it's great. It's like the Abby Lee effect when you're a Maddie.
Yeah, Abby
I
Lee
had that at dancing, and I had that at
I
had that at dancing, and I had that in phys ed. So at the carnival, it was like the coach would look at you, your phys ed teacher would look at you as if like, if you mess this up.
Yeah. Look, we wish that we could channel that same energy from a youth.
So if
to
I
now,
got second,
with fatigue and
I
all
was
these
not
conditions,
happy.
Dyan's condition has deteriorated. She mentioned before with 22Q, there
He's
is a
been
life
athlete.
expectancy of a mean average age of 50.
Yeah.
That's actually reduced in the
Should be
scientific
dead.
literature, about 46,
I'm a
47.
miracle.
And look, a lot of them might not actually even get into childhood in the first 1 or 2
Yeah,
years of
look,
life. And
most
it's
of
very
them
lucky
don't
to
make
do
it
that.
past a percentage don't make it to 3. Okay, so I'm pretty sure my grandfather would have been wrapped in my 3rd birthday.
You were told that you're a miracle baby because you were lucky
10
to
years,
have
he
been
said it.
born. Exactly, and they're always harping on about
I love
that.
my pa.
Which is interesting to find. Now, we do use a lot of medications and supplements and vitamins. We probably have 30 or 40 of those every day. You shake Dyan and
Well,
she
that's
rattles.
better than my mum, because she used to only give me vitamin C and CE tablets.
How'd that help you?
It didn't.
Tastes nice?
And honey for my asthma.
Oh, that's a helpful one too.
And that was only because I was waking her up.
Right. Now, Dyan's neutropenic, which means she's highly infectious as far as risks of picking up infections. So we have to be very careful about the environments that Dyan goes to. Because when she catches everything, it doesn't just last for 2 or 3 days. It lasts for 2 or 3 weeks, or it can go into more severe things where lots of antibiotics, steroids are required each and every time. So this is Dyan's reality of her health conditions and all these different symptoms that you do. You have something like 17 or 18 specialists in different categories that you deal with now in the public health system.
To be honest. I'm very much medicalised, guys. So that's why I love YouTube, and that's why I know that some might be like looking at it going, oh, you can't be that sick if these are the kinds of videos you do and whatever. That's because you don't see what's most of my life involves. No. Because this channel people that want to see too much of medicalisation are probably a bit messed up in their own head. Yeah. To be quite honest, I'm sorry, but I will be honest. Most people want to show the best of themselves, and that's why I show, being that it's social media, it's not in my home life, and with my relationships I have around me, it is about showing the best of me. So that's why you're probably confused with, how can you be this sick, but this is what, because you see me in my best moment of the day, because otherwise I don't film. You see me when I'm able to not be dealing with medical, right? So that's why.
So under the NDIS, Dyan has actually been qualified as high functional supports. That's the highest level of disability.
Isn't it weird to say high functional when it's like,
because you're not functioning
I'm not functioning well at all, and yet they say high functioning needs, but that's the highest level of need.
Yeah, so that's a bit asked about. There are several
English teachers explain it to me.
We would love to live in the country if we could, because we're country people at heart. But the problem is none of the country hospitals are capable.
I'm going to get a hobby farm.
And in fact, we've spoken to the director of clinical services at several hospitals who said,
not going to happen.
Look, you need to. Our hospital can't handle you. We don't have the staff. We don't have the equipment. We don't have the capabilities.
They don't have the specialists on site.
Perth, unfortunately. So that's the difference is,
guys. The difference is with these, and look, you've got to be cautious, and I'll tell you this in Australia, especially in Perth recently with what happened. Don't go to private hospitals that accept public patients like the Ramsays. Sorry, Ramsay, but I was going to say it. Go to a public hospital, guys, because the private ones, right, take you in. They don't have to. They choose to for money because they get money. They're not totally self-funded, right? So
It's always about
like
dollar
private
signs
schools, they're
and a
not
big
totally
pharma. It's all about
self-funded.
dollars.
So go to a public hospital because those hospitals don't have specialists ready to go, like neurologists, cardiologists, rheumatologists, all the ologists, right? They don't have them
have
available to
18
race
ologists.
in, okay? But if you go to a public hospital closest to you, whatever that is, right? That is where you need to go for serious things. Now look, if you've got like a broken arm, and that's a horrible thing, but it's not serious,
It's a simple thing. Sorry, I'm
you
just
can
being
go
real.
to those
Yep.
hospitals.
Have an X-ray.
But if you've got something
straightened,
serious,
plaster, you're done.
don't go to those hospitals.
Yeah. So in fact, Dyan's
Just as a
care,
warning.
and we've had to go across 7 different hospitals in the past, has now been
Yeah.
centralised
We
to
moved
one
for
major
SDAs.
Perth hospital, simply because they didn't have, again, the resource and the capabilities. So now we've had to go to the highest level of healthcare that's available in Perth for Dyan in that level.
And
We've
even
recently-
that's not very good.
No, and we've recently had to
Sorry,
now step up and
reality.
get private health cover to try and also get around
You've seen the news
access
probably.
to some of the issues where
Yeah.
we can't get hold of specialists. I went
Because
to that
I'm very
conference.
unique and complex,
Yeah.
guys. And the problem is, and I'm just going to say it, society is so uncaring, guys, that these specialists couldn't give a shit about who I am and what I need. I'm sorry, but it's the truth. Some do.
You're a
Like I
number.
said, some do. But I'm just a number.
Yeah.
But the problem with me is I'm not the common variety.
Yeah.
I need extra eyes being
And
vigilant.
nor is your condition all that common, because here in Perth,
And I'm in
unfortunately, I went
danger
to the
zones.
conference last year at Perth
Yeah.
Children's Hospital. They have 2 specialists for children for 22q11.2 deletion
Not one for
syndrome
me.
in
Over
WA.
east they do.
Once you transition into adulthood, there are no
My geneticist
specialists
said I should move
at
over
all. And literally, that's exactly right. So
Yeah.
we've had to deal with engaging with specialists over east or even overseas for some of the conditions, literally because that talent pool, that knowledge, that learning.
Even our first genetic
not here.
testing that, they all laughed at. We got genetic testing in America.
Yeah.
And, it's a big joke getting genetic testing in a
Yeah,
different
wasn't that
country.
eye-opening?
It wasn't.
No.
Okay, because it made them, even the geneticist was impressed.
Yeah.
Now they use different codes, so she was like, "Oh, I don't know their system because different countries
Yeah.
will have their own systems,
Because
right?"
it's new and emerging
But it
technology.
made
Don't learn
her
about it.
look at it and go, "Okay, well, this gives me direction of what I can test."
But there's issues to
So
investigate.
it's not a joke at all.
No.
It's very important. Now, I've had genetic testing in America and in Australia.
Yep, absolutely.
Now, look, it's hard to get, but like I said, if you get it overseas and you can prove a few things,
Mhm.
then it might make you eligible to get the genetic testing because they've made it very hard with eligibility.
Absolutely.
And I think that needs to stop, to be honest. I think that the health system needs to stop this crap with the genetics just because it's expensive. It tells all, guys. It saves decades of people suffering,
It does.
trying to work
you
out,
don't
or
test,
even
you don't find.
doctors who
Remember
are
that.
good doctors doing tests that we can't afford for them to do.
Yep.
This narrows it down by doing genetics first.
Absolutely. It would be sensible
Anyway.
if every child that's born today
That's
is
the
given a
future,
genetic
though.
test. That's what we
That'll
hope
be
to
the
see.
future, don't you reckon?
As we wrap up this video, the last little
Yeah.
part I want to say, because we've gone through all the different diagnoses, the medications, the specialists, the
Yeah.
hospitals. The last little part is Dyan has gone from being an athlete, an active person, a dancer,
I'm
a dance
still
teacher,
ADHD when I can be,
to a
but
person who has
most of the time
spent
I'm-
years, multiple years, literally stuck in a bedroom, a few metres by a few metres only. A person who requires a hospital bed
I'm
with
very
high-low,
mentally strong.
level 4 pressure care,
Very mentally
hospital table, a hoist, a wheelchair,
No, but
all these disability items.
regardless of all of that,
Mm.
the fact that male doctors think, that whenever the pain level is high, that, it can't be that high, or you can't be having a heart problem, which was their first initial response. But then they get past that eventually, always.
Yeah.
But they shouldn't start there. This is my issue. But, guys, that's why psychologically I am so strong.
You are strong.
It is not out of a good thing. Being neglected as a child, medically, not a good thing.
No.
Being neglected as majority of my adulthood for health, not a good thing. But I am mentally strong. And I just want to say to all the assholes, thank you for making me strong.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Because it's improved me coping with this syndrome and just coping with life.
Because you have to deal with pain each and every day, and I'm
Yeah.
proud of you. I mean, I would spend 2 to 3 hours every day managing your pain between heat pack and ice
But there
pack.
is the day or
massage
two where
and
I
traction.
want to give up. Like
Oh,
last time
and
I
again,
saw my doctor, I
understandable.
was like, I mean, then again, no, that was actually because of the new thing going on too. That was mainly that. But there is days which those days will trigger.
You look shit that day, to be
I was
honest.
really unwell, but also there is a new thing coming on board, so I'm naturally upset about it.
Yeah.
But basically, I don't often come out like that. Like normally, it's I go in there and fire off the jokes because it's my coping strategy
mechanism. Yeah.
in you know my functioning.
Yep.
And the fact that I don't do that is just means that when it does happen that way, so when you do see me online and I'm saying something that might be sort of emotional or very pertinent about my health,
Absolutely.
it's because
There are highs
it
and lows
is
in
that
this.
bad. I don't do it lightly.
No.
I don't like bringing people bad news, but the reality is life is full of just bad situations as well, and we have to accept that.
Yeah.
But that is not my focus, but it is always necessary at times, because there are times where I just want to go, oh, I can't. But then the next day I wake up and I go, I'm going to fight hard and I'm going to defy all the odds and I'm going to be 90, you know, that kind of thing.
Definitely.
So
there's one thing that I didn't mention in this whole array of different diagnoses and medical lingo and symptoms.
What?
And it's one which we don't always bring up in the WA health system, because sometimes it can be seen adversely in Australia. And that is because of ticks,
go
the
for
tick
it.
bite. And I'm quite happy to do so because of
when I
borreliosis.
had my home business and I was doing nails and I got a tick bite.
Yeah, which lasted on you for a couple of days.
9 hours.
No, it was actually a couple of days by the end, I think, sweetie, to be honest.
Oh, it was too.
It
That's
was,
right.
so-
Yeah, no. Yeah.
Yep. And that sense, you've
Yeah.
now got still a desensitized part of your back.
No, my back went numb, like totally numb.
Yeah.
That's the doctor that did that video about, for you guys that watch me very much so, which I love. You guys know that doctor one where I put the post-it notes. That was the doctor that I was mad about because my back was so numb.
Yeah.
It was weird.
Now, I want to talk about that because...
And that happened pretty much after that.
You've also been grown up in down south of Western Australia, in a place called Denmark. You had skeeter syndrome, which
And
is
Denmark
also
is
a mosquito-borne viral load. Very commonly, it was a lot of tick-borne borreliosis in that particular location from also not just ticks, but also other biting insects, marchflies, horseflies, and mosquitoes.
So I had skeeter syndrome, guys, where you get excessive swelling reaction, like a real bad reaction.
So you got a positive PCA test for borreliosis.
But I
borreliosis.
just want to explain Denmark's
absolutely.
environment, why that is like it is. Denmark is swampy because it's a forest on the ocean.
Yeah.
Okay, so there are mosquitoes everywhere.
Yep.
And being that my pa used to joke with me, oh, they love your little sweet blood.
Yeah.
They love you because you're so
too
sweet.
much.
And I would laugh and go, well, I wish they didn't, Pa. Because if I got bitten, not in the city, in Denmark, if I got bitten here, I'd be swollen out to here.
So
and I'd go walking down the street, and because everyone knew everyone, people would go, oh, Dyan,
it's like having
are you okay?
Yeah.
Did you get punched? You know, because I did have a brother. It was the 70s. Don't think of it that way, asking a little girl if she's punched. They did used to ask that because kids have fights, right? And it was like, no, like this is mosquitoes. She gets affected this way. And then they slowly noticed, because I moved there when I was 3. So over that couple of years I lived there, it didn't stop happening.
No.
I was in and out of the hospital. Denmark actually had a hospital, still does actually, but it's in a different location.
Okay.
And it had a GP on call. He was an old codger that was always great with that.
So you've had the mosquito bites, you've had multiple tick bites over the years as well, in locations. We've lived in locations, which is the key areas where ticks exist.
And
but you've also been overseas.
Tiny.
You know, you've been places to Germany, you've been to Africa, you've been to places where there's also ticks. But you've got a positive line thing. Unfortunately, in Australia, it's not recognised. But unfortunately, the symptoms of Lyme borreliosis are also not good as well. So look, that paints the bigger, broader picture of all the different conditions. So we've had a lot of people ask along the way, what do you have? What are you dealing with? Now you now know. There's the dump of all the information. Like I said, we probably won't engage too much in the comments around this because we're not going to go into the medical conversations. Like I said, we're not doctors. We're not here to prescribe.
We can't, what do you call it?
Diagnose, prescribe.
Diagnose. We can't sort of like
Even recommend things like treatments.
Yeah, even say like, even if you're asking me questions, just because it's me doesn't mean that's and you're similar to me that it's you. So you need to consult with doctors for medical things. I don't really like discussing it. It's not good for my algorithm. I really want to be here mainly as a vlogger, but as a disability vlogger. So naturally, of course, there's going to be medical things in it.
Correct.
But the fact is, I want the focus to be on the living.
Yeah. But by explaining today, it hopefully allows you to relate with maybe things that you are dealing with yourself, whether it's certain conditions, certain diagnoses.
Yeah, hopefully it just helps you.
The health system, medical system, rare diseases, complex diseases, all those sort of things. So I hope you have enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget to give us a big thumbs up. If you do have comments or questions, leave them below.
Yeah.
We do want to see that engagement. And of course,
and you guys know
from
what we said, what kind of questions or whatever would be okay. It probably makes sense.
Sounds good to me. Well, it has been a long episode, so I hope you have enjoyed it. And we'll see you in another episode.
Bye.
See you guys. Bye.